Everybody, I'm here today with Pete Gibson. I'm so excited because Pete was the CIO of an institution that's near and dear to my youth. I don't want to make us both sound old here. Sorry about that, Pete. But Friendly's Restaurant. I had a great memory there. And Pete's got a lot of great stories today. Pete, you've had a long history, in fact, of technology leadership roles. How did you gravitate into that?
It's pretty, I get called in to do turnarounds where your technology organization is not adding value and the companies will bring me in to add value to the business. And that normally means the IT organization is focusing on commodity, and then over a period of time, we get them to be a strategic asset to the company. And I'm brought into, because they're just not getting, the IT team's not getting the job done. CIO before didn't do a good job getting companies ready to be sold, Chapter 11, whatever it might be. I come in and help out various companies along the way.
Definitely want to hear about those turnaround stories, that hard, grueling work, and we're going to get to that. But I have to ask, how did you get to Friendly's? What led you to that?
It was the same thing. Before, the leadership before me did not do well, and they brought me in. It was private equity owned. They have not invested in technology over the years. IT kind of sat in the back corner, and the only words that were being uttered for the most part out of the organization was, "We can't do that." And that's not how an IT organization today needs to perform. It needs to perform as a strategic asset. So you've got to find ways to get the job done, tactically, processes, procedures, and strategically where you're headed.
So there was a lot of technical debt, I'm assuming, that you found, and then a culture of no?
Yep. And it wasn't so much a culture of no. It was necessarily didn't want to take the risk, necessarily didn't want to have the money. The debt was pretty big. I came in 2018, and their servers dated back to 2003 and 2007. Not a lot of processes, procedures, but I had a very tenured, mature team that just years and years of corporate knowledge, infrastructure design for 800 restaurants. We were down to 150 at the time, and they were just struggling on trying to get things done with the vision and so forth in the organization.
So here is an organization that, per your numbers, is on the decline. You come in there, dramatic underinvestment in IT, which puts a risk, right? You talked about the servers being way out of date, obviously a security risk, reliability risk. You have a culture change. Like, where did you start, and how did you get the resources from this struggling organization?
Well, at first, you always start learning the organization, and you're normally blocking and tackling. I need this, I need that, and you start figuring out who your players are and who your players are in the organization too. Not just their positions, but what do they do, what do they yield, what are their needs, position the organization, and so forth. So you're normally doing that at first. But then it starts becoming pretty apparent as to what the needs are, and you'll get a few opportunities along the way. For us at Friendly's, it was, of course, delivery. Everyone's doing delivery. And so back in 2018, I said, we need to go do this. They said, I don't know. And they said, well, they take 20%, said, you got to go do it. And then I just kind of chuckled a little bit. And I said, Mr. CFO, are we yielding or are we pricing? And he goes, we're pricing. Do you know how much menus cost to print? And I go, okay. So then we got one delivery service in, and they said, that's enough. And I go, no, you want all of them in. And oh, by the way, every delivery service has a different demographic. And the model we were chasing wasn't a typical bolt-on delivery services like a lot of restaurants do it. It was a hotel model. It was a car rental model to this, that we're looking at pricing going up and down, what is selling and not selling, and an e-commerce approach to the delivery sites. And so we've got the four major ones in place at the time. And we had a new CEO come in, and he put in a new menu that focused on good value, i.e., You order $7 breakfast, you get a good $7 breakfast. So he was really focused on that. And lo and behold, by November, December 2019, Friendly's went profitable for the first time in years. Friendly's restaurants went profitable for the first time in years. And that was a major event for the organization. And then COVID hit 3 months later. And as you know, a lot of restaurants closed.
Yeah.
No one was going through it. Everyone was sequestered. So restaurants closed. We did not close. Now, if you had a drive-through, you were killing it. But an old brand didn't have a drive-through, and you just can't retrofit drive-throughs. So we focused heavily on delivery. So we cleaned up our e-commerce sites and delivery sites. We started looking at organic placement on those sites. We started looking at other type of revenue generating type things we go do. And then lo and behold, after we do all the cleanup of the sites and looking at what is selling and not selling and optimization, in the summertime, we were only down 35%. And then, as you know, we have limited dining rooms opening up here in New England. And then in the fall of October of 2020, we were only down 10% year over year, no drive-through. And so it was a testament to the IT team. When we first went profitable, the operators were saying, you know why we're profitable? And I go, nah, not really. He goes, delivery. I says, and delivery at that time, in that November, December, when we were profitable, was 20% of the business.
Are we talking about November, fourth quarter of last year during COVID?
Fourth quarter 2019, before COVID.
Oh, 2019.
Yeah, before COVID, we went profitable, and it was 20% of our business at that time. And then it became 35% during the initial stages of the pandemic, sure. 65% during the summer, and then in fall of last year, we were only down 10% year over year. And that's a testament to, one is the IT team doing their job, operators and marketing guys all doing their jobs and working together. But then also the innovation of looking at other industries and being able to bring in their best practices that we could apply to our industry so that we could be more profitable.
Well, I love that you are a CIO that's laser focused on revenue generation. I have to ask, what was your reporting structure? Who did you report into?
I report into the CFO, but that doesn't bother me. I mean, so if you report into the CFO or the CEO, the way I look at it, I've in the past for CEOs, boards, CFOs, in my mind, the CIO reports to everybody. It is an organizational position, and I don't care about if it's the CFO or the CEO. I still support the CEO. I still support the CFO. I still report the customers visiting the restaurant. I still support the restaurants. The admins and our customers too. So the CIO needs to support everybody in the organization. And if you're doing your job and you're supporting everybody, it doesn't really matter who you report to, in my mind.
I hear from CIOs that they don't feel like they have a seat at the table when they're downstream in the org chart. But your attitude certainly demonstrates otherwise.
No, yeah, you kind of negotiate that up front before you join the organization. I will be at the table because in this day and age, I'll just be honest. There's no new anything exciting coming out of accounting. And I hope there are no accounting folks listening to this. It's this typical type thing they got to go do. Operators are operators. HR is HR. But if you want to really greatly improve the business, there's probably a technology facet to it. When you really get the technology organization to start, not that they don't work hard, but when you get in and move them out from a commodity play into a strategic asset, when there's a new initiative in the organization, normally the first call is to the IT team. If they're doing their job, because there's a IT component, plus you have the services of project management, leadership, across the board leadership in the organization, and just not technology, to pull off this new initiative in the organization.
It has been said recently that every company is a digital company. All initiatives, therefore, have have an IT component. So I completely agree with you. I want to move forward and talk about digital transformation here. As you know, Pete, Synoptics is an innovation partner. I work with folks like you all the time. We've talked about that, and I'd love to hear some of the places where you kind of leverage that. I know it's a buzz phrase, but I'd like to hear your perspective and things that you've done around that.
Well, yeah, it's huge. I'll kind of walk you through IBM, put in IBM.com at IBM, an e-commerce company. The major transformation. What was the transformation there? They had all their, of course, you won't like hearing this, but they had all their value-added resellers, all their VARs, right? And the goal, and VARs are really important, but VARs get a vid. They get a piece of the action. So IBM wanted to create a direct channel. So that was a nice little piece of work there. Alamo and National Car Rental didn't, we took them through Chapter 11 reorganization, but also at the end, we did a project called the Automated Lot, to where you could walk on the lot and never talk to anybody, check a car out, drive it. We know who it is, mileage, everything on this vehicle, drive it for your period of time, bring it back in, check it in, leave it, and walk off the lot, and we could go do all the transactions.
That's a win-win.
And so it was well ahead of its time. And when I was running the U.S. Navy's Tomahawk program, we did some interesting things in acquisition and how we acquired things. I don't mean illegally or anything like that, but just how do you go do it? And for that lot automation project, I used some of those type practices to where I made the vendors form teams and said, here are all of our requirements, well documented, here are all the requirements, you vendors form teams, and then you come back to us with what the solutions are. And so we got some really innovative solutions out of that. Motorola had vests that the associates could communicate with, so if something was wrong at the gate, they could talk to people. We had, interesting, the anti-business of car rental is the parking industry. And the parking industries, they have cameras, they take pictures of the cars when they come on the lot, and then they go off the lot to make sure there's no ancillary damage. We reversed that and put that in, so we would know who there was no damage leaving on the vehicle, and we checked it back in, and we knew if you had damage on it. And then if you said, oh, well, that wasn't me, we could go, here are the pictures. All these little creative ideas were all brought together by the vendors team. And then what we did was we put various vendor teams in competition with each other to give us a good price point. So innovation, besides the technology and the business process side of it, is also in how you acquire things and leverage your vendors to give you the best and the brightest ideas. Because innovation really starts from the head or the company, but the best ideas is really done together in a team. So having people that have different products that you may not be aware of, different integrations you may not be aware of, and leverage their workforce is key to innovation.
You said some gems in there. I want to repeat, make sure I got them right. You said innovation is done as a team, and that some of the best ideas you got were from some of your vendors that fed into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Best ideas don't come from the CIO. CIO, that we're terrible at it, right? If you want to know the truth about it, we get stuff done. We're lead the organization to do it, but you've got to have a wide network. Junior people on your team have great ideas, and I will tell a story about a guy that got $1 million hitter by doing that. Working with your vendors, they have great ideas on it. Different industries, different education groups have different ideas as to how you can go and improve your business. And so having these conversations, and I'll say 9 times out of 10, I throw these people out of my office. But what did I just say? Most people will pair it back to me and say, Pete, you said 9 times out of 10, you throw people out of your office. I said, and that's right. That's what I said. But what you missed was 1 time out of 10, I buy.
I'd like to think that when I've been successful, I've been that 1 out of 10 in contrast to the value-added reseller, where reseller is part of their name and their business value. And there's really not a whole lot of value add in it. The best compliments I've had are from CIOs who told me later, we were planning to go down this path. We talked to you. You challenged us. Why do you want to do that? Have you thought of this? And later, they were thankful that they had a different direction and were better for it. And that's really value added.
I mean, it's huge. Don't get me wrong. Having best and brightest ideas is really important. And that's why always you're communicating, talking your ideas and problems, not throwing them out there to everybody, but say, here are some issues and things of that nature. And so one of the, there's some really good technologies out there that will help you out in the ransomware world. If it wasn't for vendors talking to us about it, we wouldn't have any idea, because your average IT team, you don't have enough resources to be looking out. They're all trying to do their day job on getting it done, but having some type of feedback is important.
So let's go to getting those ideas from your team and changing their thinking. You mentioned that you had that when you walked in the door at Friendly's. There was a culture issue. I've written quite a bit about the culture change that needs and the mindset. I'd love to hear. It doesn't have to, any one of your successes in your history here, how you really change the direction of your team and harness their value.
Well, it's a different thing. I mean, a lot of people think that harnessing the value of a team is always tech, and it's not always tech. Okay. A lot of it is just being able to get them to work together and be more efficient to get products out on time and on budget. Okay. So look at my bio, at a major hotel chain where I was CTO, the IT team could not get an application out the door. So, and they all were running around doing their job, but not working together as a team. And so, equipment was just showing up in the data center, and the data center had no idea it was coming for the service desk or the help desk. They would find out when an application was launched because the customer would call and say, here it is. So we created, because I'm a process guy back from running the Tomahawk Cruise Missile program, we put in a system development lifecycle. And we're a 500-person organization. We went to a matrixed organization. Every time we stood up an initiative or a project, I had developers on it, network guys on it, PMs on it. I had the help desk guys on it at the very beginning of the project. The infrastructure guys, I think I already mentioned them. They're there at the very beginning of the project. And the customers involved too. And they work together through a predefined development life cycle that had quality checkpoints along the way to make sure we were developing quality code. And then it gets down to everything is good. We have equipment that's right sized, help desk is trained, application is working well. And then the next thing that happens is we just have a go, no go meeting. Everyone goes go, and then out the door it goes. But everyone is all ready for the application. When I first put that in, it was like, oh my God, you shot my dog. I go, oh God. And I had some people come around after we had the kickoff and showed them all the processes that were defined, and they defined the processes. I just kind of lead it, but I had a person, an IT process person, he put it together, but he was working with the various people, and they had a team doing it, and they put it together, and we put it in place, and we kicked it off. We showed everybody all the process. This is what you do when, and all the other stuff. I literally had some people come to me and says, this is too restrictive. I can't do my job. I had other people come to me saying, this doesn't, it doesn't really tell me how to do my job. And I just kind of said, humor me, try it. So we put a team together, and off they went, and we had checkpoints, I'd always check it with them on a weekly basis. How are we doing? And all that stuff. You know what happened? It went out, worked. And then they said, and I said, humor me again. Next two projects we're going to do the same way. And then, oh, by the way, moratorium, I ain't going back to that old chaos way anymore. We're doing this way. And lo and behold, two more projects went out. Then all of a sudden, the project started going out on time and on budget. A year later, or was it 18 months later, I had my senior architect come to me and says, we got problems. And I said, what? He said, we got too many projects going out the door at the same time. The interdependencies aren't baked between the projects. And I go, really? And you go, okay. So let's sit down and talk about it. Slow this one 2 weeks, move this one forward. Slow this one down 2 weeks. And the team's executed flawlessly. And I had to get on the call, just the CEO and board members and a few customers. And I'm going to deliver 2 weeks late. Here's why. I need this process going in. But at that time, everyone in the organization realized, IT is delivering. IT is getting stuff done, and we had moved out of not being able to get an application out the door into putting all types of applications out the door, solving the needs of the organization. We also then started selling services to the franchisees, and IT was adding $10 million in EBITDA to the success of that company by selling services to the franchisees.
What were you selling, out of curiosity? What services?
We would resell network. We would resell property management systems. We would resell technology support. And the one that we put in was revenue management and yield management. Are you getting the right price for selling your rooms?
Some of the larger franchisees owners would certainly need that. Maybe the smaller, less sophisticated ones didn't see it.
To see what the
value.
Oh yeah, they would see that. But then also the other thing was, of course, if you got to play your hand a little bit here. Yeah. But you say, hey, I got this big thing called a central reservation system, and I connect with all Orbitz and Expedia and all these guys, and I'll make reservations. And if you want that revenue stream coming to your property, you got to use my property management system. By the way, the network services also is a good thing.
You make a change. Oh, I'm sorry.
And then if you want to leave, the other thing was we would design our systems to be sticky. So if you say you don't want to carry the flag of that brand or whatever, we go, okay, we'll cut you off. What do you mean you're going to cut me off? Oh yeah, I'm going to cut off your revenue stream of your property. And they go, oh really? It's going to take me 2 months or 3 months to re-sign with somebody else. And we go, well, you should think about staying with us. So you try to design into your systems an ability to go be sticky, so they don't want to leave your family, your portfolio, because that's where keeping the properties in is huge. So you've got, as the IT leader and so forth, you got to be thinking about these type things.
Pete, I love that you're a CIO who's always thinking about the business strategy. I want to go back to the change management piece, because you make that sound easy, and the hardest change management is culture change management, and you just made it seem like we just did it. There are tips and tricks and things and little tactics you can try, especially for the younger generation. Have them come up with memes of ideas, because they're all about memes, gamification, reserving some time for us, to have innovation contests and ideas, and nobody gets shot down. But at the end of the day, some people don't. You move their cheese, and it's hard for them.
No, it is hard for them. It is hard for them. But at the end of the day, in that case, so an example that I said, you can live in chaos, or you can come to work knowing what's got to get done. And most technologists like to come to work knowing what's going to get done, and not, he's developing. Oh, I got a major bug. You got to drop what you're doing and go get it fixed.
Some of them had to find a job somewhere else as you came on board. They weren't.
Well, no, not really. So this is where you gotta work it and sell it. Now, notice I told you in the beginning, I didn't develop it. I said this is what I want in it, and I worked with them. I'm doing reviews. We got to do this, and so forth. But I had a team working it. What was the methodology for the team writing the process on how to go do it? I'm actually working on getting buy-in from the organization, because they got a task to go do. They'll go do it. But then you kind of say to them, you put some of your naysayers on there too to go do this, and so they get in there. Then when you get ready to launch this thing and the process is baked, you also have your KPIs as to how you're going to measure it, what the roles are. Everyone does it. What are all the wickets? Oh, by the way, how do you do variance from the process and so forth? What are those processes? Because not every process fits everything, and you got to get this to work. So what is known as a waiver and deviation process of your process. So, how do you go do all that stuff? And that was all explained to them. And then we train everybody on it as education. And then everyone understand? Yes. Everyone agree with this? Yes. So you can get what they're really saying is, we don't want to tell you, boss, that we don't agree with it. but you kind of go, hey, at the end of 2 weeks later, you say, you agreed to this. Okay. But then you go try it. And then they kind of say, a little bit painful because we didn't quite understand it, but it worked out pretty well. And then you do 2 or 3 and it works out pretty well. And oh, by the way, the code is good and the customer's happy. And then next thing you know, the chaos starts leaving the organization and they don't want to go back. And then the other thing is we learn from those processes. I'm dwelling on this right now, but so there's process 1.0, but then there's not right immediately, right? So then we'll do a modification, change management to the process, version 1.1. These things got changed. We re-educate everybody on here's the changes that got made. Here's the process. This is why we did it. We do pizza and Mountain Dew and make fun and so forth, but they get all the education as to what it is. And then it says it goes into effect in a week or so, right? This day gets cut in. Here's the cut-in date. You go, okay,
for this new process you're layering in.
Yeah, but the whole process, though, makes the entire organization work together, which means now we have the capability to deliver innovation, deliver improvements to the business, to do digital transformation and so forth. I mean, you go in and everyone says, well, what type of development organization are you? You go, agile. I go, oh, that's great. Good. And so show me your board, show me your Scrum board. You got to be done, in progress, blocked, completed. Which one has the most stickies? I'll tell you, most organization, it's the blocked. And then you start asking, where's the engineering? Where is all the requirements and so forth? And you start seeing it breaks down. Where is the infrastructure in this? Where is help desk in this? You say, well, we're just developing an application. Yeah, but I got news for you. You can have some really verbose applications. You don't have servers for it. You're going to put it on an underpowered server. And you know what's going to happen? Users are not going to have a good experience with it. And then they start complaining it doesn't work. So you got to think about all these things and capture all these things as you do your processes and innovation and so forth.
Love it. I'm really curious, what challenges are next on your hit list, Pete?
We did it, the IT team, to tell you the success of them. I said we were down 10%. We were able to get it sold. We sold 2 restaurant brands in the middle of the pandemic.
When was that?
That was fall of 2020. We sold Friendly's New Year's Eve, actually.
Wow.
Then it was the IT team, little project manager, coordinated the shutdown of the holding company. In 30 days, we had the holding company shut down. We did a project management approach to everything that needs to be done. People put their ideas as to what needed to be done. We created a project plan and we held ourselves accountable. And 30 days later, we were out of the space in a smaller, little tiny office for the people that were doing the final payments on stuff. And equipment was gone, furniture was gone, liabilities gone, the whole bit.
That's a great successful outcome that you drove to.
It is. So I'm in transition right now, looking for the next turnaround.
All right. Well, hopefully this video, we'll spread this around because any organization would be really lucky to have you, Pete. What are you, in your meantime, what are you curious about? What are you fidgeting with? What are you thinking about?
It's the technologies that I remain bullish on right now that I think add a lot of value to organizations one is predictive analytics. It is, it's not new. Yep. Predictive analytics, machine learning, AI. AI is kind of a misnomer term, but those type things are really bullish for organizations. You get a lot of value out of it if they know how to apply it.
I think the reason predictive analytics has a lot of value now is the tools have become so at the ready for organizations that we're turning projects with such a fast cadence. I mean, executing them and delivering them that the ROI is fast. So
ROI is huge in those projects. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It depends how quickly you can execute, right? It depends what your investment is.
That gets you in those projects. I mean, I'll tell you a story. I went into one organization, and this organization spent $1 million on SaaS. Now, Charlie Goodnight down in Cary, North Carolina, SaaS, they make a good product. And so it is a great data science project, analytics, statistical analytics type products, and they got different products, of course, but it's really good. But this organization forgot about business process and processes as to how they're going to use this new capability. The other thing is they didn't get the talent set in there. And the third thing is they didn't think about data normalization and data cleaning. So at the end of the year, they couldn't get this thing to work. And you know what they did? They wrote off $1 million investment. But I will tell you, and then the other thing is in that area is people don't quite understand it. They go, you do a prediction and they say, is it correct? Well, of course, the answer is no, it's not correct. And then they go, well, what good is it? It's not correct. It's either got an upper control limit, lower control limit. Here's the probability that it's in there. And they go, oh, well, that's not any good. And I said, yeah, it is. I got news for you. I said, if you were to prognosticate, you're going to be right about 30% of the time. Predictive analytics will get you right about 80, 90, even higher than that, depending on how much work you want to put in on the algorithm, that you're going to be right on that side of the house or within those control limits. And that's huge for a business if you know how to apply it. But we live in the world of Excel spreadsheets, historical information, those type things, and we all think that that is correct. And that stuff's not correct either. We all know the truth about it. So.
Well, it's like you can't fly a plane without the controls and the dashboard.
Right.
And if the plane was built on Excel, you'd have managers rolling up information, and by the time it came to your dashboard, it'd be 2 weeks old data. You really can't operate something with.
But that's how you do it. I mean, you look at the business cycle, and this is again how people should be, CIO should be thinking in particular, right? You're spot on the money. Just go look at the accounting cycle, right? Months worth of business. Then we go into close. 10 days later, close. That means you're in the middle of the month, okay, or the following month. And then you have people together and say, well, this isn't quite right. We got to get this fixed and get this fixed. You go, okay. And then by the time you get plans out there and get it into like the field or whatever, another 6 weeks have gone by. By the time you analyze it, develop it, start rolling out the fixes and things like that, you have just lost a quarter. 3 months. But if you go into prognostic and you start forecasting, you can forecast a lot of things through algorithms, and then you can start looking at where the tolerances aren't quite right, and you start looking ahead instead of looking in the rearview mirror.
100%.
And that's huge.
And the difference between your story of SaaS, which is to some degree a yesteryear product, because it's been around for a long time, that some of the enabling tools today allow us to turn around projects under 50K, under 8 weeks. Here's a phase one you can immediately start using. You get beneficial value, not $1 million, nowhere near that. So there's a better ROI because the I is so small.
Well, it is, but a lot of organizations and some of your best innovation isn't from big bang projects. It's from go test a little bit.
Right.
Go try it. Go try a little bit. Oh, this vendor says he can go do that. Like you need to go work with them a little bit and go see. Is it feasible? Is it plausible? Oh, Mr. Vendor, if you're so good, give me a proof of concept. I'll give you my data set. You give me a proof of concept. And you go, oh, yeah. And then you go, this is pretty valuable stuff. And then you go, here's a little seed, if you can come up with it. Here's a little seed money. We want to go do this. And this is a big thing for us as a company if we can go prove this.
I'm a huge believer in POCs. We are at Synoptic as well. We do those all the time. I love proving it out.
Yeah. And you show it and you go, wow, this is pretty good. And then, but also as a CIO, you go, next management meeting, look what we just did. Mr. CEO, Mr. Ops, Mr. this. And they go, wow. And some of your best ideas, you may champion the idea, but it's always your idea until they adopt it. And then when they adopt it, it's like, best thing in sliced bread, and gotta do it. So that's how you get your business partner. The ops guy says, oh, we really need this. And we go, oh, that's you, the vendor, myself, let's have a conversation.
I love how you sell it
in there. Let's have a conversation, see what we can't go do. And then if it's enough and you want to champion it, we'll go talk to the CEO, see if he buys off on it. I'm sure he will if it makes money. And then that just kind of just allows us to strong arm the CFO to say, I want some seed money here, guy. Come up with it.
I love that. You have to sell laterally. You have to sell up in the organization and down. It sounds like you've mastered that. So is there anything, Pete, that I should have asked you, but I neglected to do?
No, I'm pretty straight. As you can tell, I'm straightforward, plain Jane, easygoing, typical guy, typical CIO.
Oh, you're far from typical, Pete. You're no, and that's why you and I are chatting. I really appreciated it today. This is phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you very much.